Today's episode of Shakespeare Reviews is all about relationships. Love, romance, relationships even that go wrong. But sometimes they find their way back to the light. Today, we're discussing Romeo and Juliet, Sherlock Gnomes. A sequel, or is it? And Romeo Must Die. How are they similar? How are they separate? And how do they adequately explore the toxicity that is modern day relationships? Andrew, I ask you, how do they adequately experience the toxicity of modern relationships? That is a good word, toxicity.
I think they make the attempt by with a lot of violence in both movies, actually.
Yes, a surprising amount of violence. Surprising
Right?
amount.
Right? Yeah, so much so that this sequel to Romeo and Juliet is PG and not G.
Ooh. And
I know.
that means as we delve and dive into this sequel, or is it? And also the exploration of Romeo Must Die, which, hey, Romeo and Juliet is a violent show in the first place. We need to let everyone know one important thing. This is a 2-part episode.
It is a two-parter. Yes, it's our special end of the season 2-part episode. Now, we during this last season, we did discuss Sherlock Gnomes, that we were going to do that, and we did discuss Romeo Must Die. We were going to do that.
Romeo Must Die.
Sorry,
that's part 3.
Romeo.
That's part 3.
Sorry. Wow, slip of the tongue there. Romeo Must Die.
You are letting out your true feelings, my friend.
Romeo Must Die and we were going to do both of those, so we wanted to make sure we got both of those in. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Romeo. Yeah. Let's start with Sherlock Gnomes here, and go into that. That is just an interesting sequel because usually when you get a sequel, it takes place 2, 3, sometimes 4 years later. It takes a little bit of time with pre-production. Sometimes they've already greenlit the sequel before the first movie even is released.
Indeed.
It gets crazy. This, not so much. This was 7 years later, and I think the time difference hurt them. Just like a lot of other sequels that happen long after the original film, it loses a lot of that magic. And I think this did too. I mean, you get a different director, and a very different approach to the film. I mean, everything from the feel, the flow, even the aspect ratio of the film they changed. I mean, there's a lot of difference.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, they made it more widescreen, and of course, different director. That kind of thing happens, but it in many ways it hurts the feeling of, like, if you're watching them back to back, it hurts that transition with just that little thing there.
Also, this might just be me, but having Romeo and Juliet in Sherlock Gnomes,
yes,
ostensibly a sequel to Romeo
Yes.
and Juliet, was a mistake. This could have just simply been a story set in that world, and
Yes.
Romeo and Juliet might be some of the kidnapped garden gnomes.
Yes.
But this is not their story, and they were shoved into a story where they did not belong, other than to provide counterpoint to Watson and Holmes's, or Gnomes's, that rather dysfunctional relationship. And
I totally agree.
And
It's really strange. I think that normally the thing that is done when movies like this is the characters from the earlier film make a cameo.
Yeah.
I mean, the leads kind of come in and they have like a short little 5-10 second bit. And then sometimes, okay, it lasts for a whole few minutes and that's it. And that's sort of the nod to the earlier film. And acceptance that this is in the same universe as that earlier film, and it works, and it adds that bridge. This, especially with Juliet, it is really, she's one of the main characters in this throughout. I mean, Gnomeo to a lesser degree, and I don't know. I mean, with the story, I can kind of see why they went that way. I mean, not to throw out too many spoilers here, but needing another assistant and how the story played out. I mean, I thought Juliet in that role made sense, but how they pulled it off, you're right. It really took away from that relationship between Watson and Holmes. I mean, or Gnomes. Sherlock. It's really.
Let's just call him Sherlock. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's just call him Sherlock and do it. And a lot of the magic, the little nods to the original subject matter in the original film, Romeo and Juliet, it was to Shakespeare. They had a few of those nods in this film. Nowhere near as many.
No.
There wasn't as
Watson
much.
Watson had a cute one. In the museum, when he's looking for Gnomeo, he says, "Gnomeo, Gnomeo, oh, fine. Wherefore art thou, Gnomeo?"
You're right.
He
right.
sighs. He's like, "I can't believe I'm
Right.
about to say this." That was cute. That was funny. But there was not nearly enough of that if you're going to have Romeo and Juliet in there.
Yeah.
Having Juliet talk with Sherlock about her relationship problems, again, not a bad idea. They completely telegraphed one of the red herrings right away, though, when Watson is talking to Gnomeo and says that people can be complicated. Gnomeo. I'm sorry, he doesn't say Gnomeo. Juliet, Sherlock, me. It's like, all right, yeah, we're setting you up as the villain. All right, that was obvious. You just laid it out there. You die off screen.
Yeah.
And then,
obvious.
Like, oh, but you weren't the villain. And just like, oh, come on. They overcomplicated it. They didn't do a good job with it. It could have been a far more interesting story if it just took place in that world. To have the goons of the very beginning say, we're telling the story of Sherlock Holmes. They start fighting about it. Let's go do Spider-Man Far From Gnome. The various puns they were throwing in the first minute of the story was silly, and I enjoyed them, and I expected more of that. And then the film did not deliver. And
no, I don't want to blame the voice acting.
No.
Like, Johnny Depp as Sherlock was I thought very good, and that a lot of they brought in a lot of the earlier ones, everybody from Michael Caine and Maggie Smith to all these other that were in the original, and that all worked. I have no problem with the voice acting. It was none. I think it was mainly the story and to an extent the directing, and bringing in a new director in a successful film, in my opinion, is always risky.
Yeah,
I mean, you have a totally different development process and a different setup, and it really, you really risk not generating that magic. I mean, John Stevenson. I mean, he's a veteran. He's done movies before, animated, but it just not it didn't feel the same, and that magic just felt lost. I don't know how else to explain it than that. It's just it wasn't the same, and for a sequel to feel like to be very different in feeling, you better be able to justify that really well, and it better be a good new feeling. And it wasn't.
The way to have done that would have been to have made it an anthology series. That it's in the Gnome universe, and this one's Gnome and Juliet. And
to have it separate, and
exactly.
It was to have a sequel. I don't know. It was a weird type of sequel where
it was a hybrid, and I did not like it. I did not care for it.
I almost wish. I think it almost would have been better if they just gone one full way or the other and just made it like Romeo and Juliet on an adventure. And what do? They enlist the help of Sherlock Gnome and Watson, who help them to solve this mystery. And of course, they provide some sort of the two of them provide maybe some sort of C-3PO R2-D2 comic relief type of thing.
Yes.
And then they go through and do that, and it's a continuation story.
Going into this movie, that is what I thought it was. And I went back and watched the trailer on YouTube for it. And that's kind of what it insinuated. That this
Makes
was a new adventure where Sherlock and Watson get roped in by Romeo and Juliet. And instead it was different. And I had no problem with the individual character dynamics. I did not mind Juliet with Sherlock. I did not mind Gnomeo with Watson. But you need to either set that up a little bit earlier or have it be a little bit of a longer movie. Either way. But that being said, it was 90 minutes and felt long.
Yes, it did. It did.
And it's a 90-minute movie is not long, people. That is the length of an episode of Sherlock on BBC. By the way, you should go watch Sherlock. It's amazing.
You should.
It's amazing. We're going to do a spin-off series, Sherlocked. Sherlocked. You know what? It's a work in progress. It's a work in progress.
It is.
It's a work in progress. Totally. You know what? Ignore what I said, internet. Ignore what I said. No. But that's now we can compare and contrast, and that's why I like that we're doing two movies today.
Yes.
For this, because you can compare to the 2-hour running time of Romeo Must Die, which felt a little long, but otherwise it moved along, and it was not.
Which you'd expect an action film to move quickly,
yes, absolutely.
It does.
I felt it dragged a little bit, but there were good funny parts, primarily with Delroy Lindo, as I just want to call her Juliet. That's not right. Her name is Trish, but since it's Romeo and Juliet.
Right.
I like that our lead characters live at the end. That is a nice twist on the classic fable, especially since the two sides are at war, as is expressed at the beginning.
I mean, really, the concept of making Romeo and Juliet into an action film, I mean, at first it seems counterintuitive, but when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense.
So much sense.
I mean, really does. You know, what do you want in an action film? You want the violence and the fighting and the drama, and you know, if a good one has some extra intrigue and some betrayal and backstabbing, and then you know, if you get a good romance in there too, I mean, you've got the makings of some of the best action films ever made, and it makes. I mean, it works itself. I think the problem there is that they didn't really. I mean, if we are actually just jumping into Romeo Must Die now,
I don't see any reason why not, because then we can just go back, because it is a seamless transition. They are effectively the same movie. They're the same movie. Close your eyes. It's exactly the same.
I mean, there's a lot of crossover. I mean, the producer Joel Silver. I mean, for Romeo Must Die. I mean, he produced a ton of the most famous action films of the last 40 years. Yeah. I mean, starting off with the movie The Warriors, long time, I mean, early, and then going into like 48 Hours, Lethal Weapon, the series, the first two Die Hard films. I mean, we're talking about the classic movies in that genre over time. And also, he produced The Matrix.
That's right, he did.
Just the year before this, and
which
the year before
explains much about this movie.
It does, because in the 90s he started thinking about how, I mean, reportedly he started thinking about action films were just, they weren't doing anything new anymore, and he kept wanting to try to figure out new, and he turned to the East to figure out what they were doing, and that sort of helped get inspired him for The Matrix, and then this film, which one of the main criticisms at the time, which I think we would find funny right now, was the use of CGI in the fight scenes. Because they would switch over during when somebody would punch somebody, it would switch over into like seeing like an X-ray type of thing of their arm where the bone breaks and all of that.
Yeah, I wasn't in love with that.
I wasn't in love with it either, but it doesn't seem out of place now. I mean, it's still, oddly enough, the animation actually still holds up because they didn't take it too seriously. I mean, it wasn't like they're trying to be insanely accurate. It was more for the action. And now it doesn't seem that out of place. Was it perfect? Maybe not. But Then they thought it was a blasphemy, like, oh, it took away from the realism of the fight scene. Now, of course, that's ridiculous. I mean, we wouldn't look at it that way. But this was just the year after The Matrix came out, so you have to realize doing CGI during a fight scene. There are two schools of thought in that around that time. There was the idea that in a fight scene, you're going to go out of your way to make it believable and realistic. Mm-hmm. Or you're going to make it more fantasy, where there's going to be wire work and people are going to be flying around and fighting each other and doing the crazy things that seem impossible, but give it sort of a mystical, we've got powers and abilities beyond what you can imagine type of thing. And the one extreme or the other. And those were the two. This was somewhere kind of in the middle. Yeah. And it really messed with people, and it hurt them in the box office. This movie did make money, but it had a low budget. Romeo Must Die was 25 million budget, and it made 91 million worldwide. So it was great in that regard, but the critics not so crazy about it. Now, Sherlock Gnomes was an interesting take too, because their budget was a good bit more than Gnomeo and Juliet. Gnomeo and Juliet was 36 million. Sherlock Gnomes was 59 million. And where Romeo and Juliet made 193 million, Sherlock Gnomes made 90 million. So you can look at it and say, I mean, Romeo Must Die actually made more money than Sherlock Gnomes with less than half the budget.
Yeah.
Put that in your put that in your hat and see what happens. I mean, that's just wow. That is huge difference. And I mean, you're talking about a producer who was responsible for a Sherlock Holmes film, in Joel Silver. I mean, he did Sherlock Holmes for Robert Downey Jr.
Oh, did he really? Oh, well,
yes,
then
he produced that. So yeah, that was.
Then he should have produced Sherlock Gnomes as well, because I think it would have done better.
It would have done better. It would have. So it would have. I wish they'd talked to us before that, and we told them about.
I don't see why they did. I don't see why they didn't.
They really should. We really should hire ourselves out as consultants, I swear.
Listen, Hollywood, Andrew and I, we're available. I don't know if you realize that, but we will take your call.
We will.
We have ideas, and they are good.
Now, I guess back to Romeo Must Die. Yes, I did say it right. Romeo Must Die.
If you said Gnomeo, that's the title of this episode. Gnomeo Must Die, because right? It's a double feature.
I mean, I thought the casting of Jet Li and Aaliyah was. I mean, that was great.
I thought she was quite good. I was surprised.
This was her first film.
Good. I was surprised at how good she is. I mean, she doesn't get many spoilers. No. She dies at 22, but very, very sad. But I thought the acting in this was
and there was chemistry between them. So it wasn't just like we want Jet Li and we want this singer. We want to and just put them together. I mean, it might have happened that way, and it was a happy accident, but there was chemistry between them. I assumed that they had some sort of screen test, and it worked. It was a bit of an odd couple type of thing, but it worked. And you know, they didn't play up the romance. Honestly, it came across more like one of Joel Silver's earlier films, like a Lethal Weapon kind of buddy film. I mean, where they both were put in the situation of trying to figure it out, and they worked together to figure it out, and sort of maybe a slightly flirtatious, friendly relationship develops. But I mean, I honestly didn't mind that. I kind of thought it was an interesting way to go.
And as far as an adaptation of Romeo and Juliet, it's very, very loose. The opening scene, I mean, the interminably long opening credits, but the opening scene when they get to the club is very, and that's a Capulet dog, by my hand I care not, do you bite your thumb at me? It's very much that, up down to the point where Silk, I believe the casino owner's name is playing the part of the prince. He shoots off the guns to keep them from shooting each other, and he says, "Get out." And this is rather fantastic in that regard. And therein it rather departs the rest of the Romeo and Juliet story, until we get to Romeo eventually being at, I keep calling him Romeo, his name is Han.
Right.
Han is Romeo, Trish is Juliet, Shakespeare, keep it straight in your head. Until you get to Han getting to first Trish's apartment, and then later when she's at her father's house, and he is, in one case, beating up the goons, and in another case, they escape into the night. And that was, the escape into the night bit was adorably funny, with her father continually coming back and saying, "Hi, honey, if you need anything. Oh, if you need anything."
Yeah.
And that was very much anon-ness, anon, from the balcony scene. But goodness gracious, can we talk about Anthony Anderson for just a hot minute?
Okay.
He makes everything better. He makes everything better. And I have no idea most of the movie what his character is even doing in this film,
Right.
other than being a delight. But that character, he really needs boundaries. That's what he needs. He barges into her room at her father's house without being invited. No, it's just like, knock on the door. Oh, she's not there. Okay, I'm going to eat this pizza myself. No, he barges in. Also, he's terrible at his job. He's like, your job early on is to babysit her, and you let her escape. And like, as you are hitting on a woman through toxic masculinity, I might add, gentlemen, do not pull a lady's headphones off of her. No, that is bad. Bad Anthony Anderson. And by bad, I mean bad character played by Anthony Anderson, Maurice. He's not Moron, he's Maurice. That was a funny bit. They kept going. Thought that was good. But just everything he was doing to like, when they're playing Madden and he's fake covering his eyes, running like, oh, I'm not even looking.
Yeah, right. That was great.
Just every bit he's involved with.
The way to think about how good he was in this film is to think about what the film would be like without him. And that is, without his scenes, without his bits in there, this film would have been mediocre at best. I mean, it's crazy because he added a dimension which was so necessary to make this at least a decent film. Yeah. That I mean, that's how important one character, one actor can be in a film. And I totally agree. You're right. He was definitely a gem in there.
During the touch football scene, just so fantastic. And then Isaiah Washington as Mac, effectively our Tybalt to an extent. So fantastic. He was so malevolent.
Right?
At every level. He just oozed kind of just evilness. And he was great, but he was charming and just really good. Delroy Lindo as Isaac for Trisha's dad. He was great, and he just wants a piece of the pie, while also being a criminal mastermind, I guess. But D.B. Woodside, the very underused in this case, D.B. Woodside, was just a delight. For the 3 scenes, I guess he's in, he's just so good. He came on my radar during the Buffy the Vampire Slayer period.
Right.
And he's so good. And then Jet Li was charming. He was funny. It just worked. The fight scenes were all really cool.
Oh yeah.
I hated, though, a couple of things that they were doing during them. The constant whoosh, whoosh sound effect that they constantly did. And then in the final fight scene, he has against, I just forgot his name. Kai?
Oh, right. Yeah, Kai.
Kai, yes.
Kai.
The music was too loud for their fighting. It's like, and I liked most of the music during the movie. It's just the music was too loud. It was drowning them out. I think it would have been more powerful to have it have no music, no score during that.
Right.
I think it would have been a more powerful fight scene. That being said, it was really good. It was really cool.
Yeah. It was a good fight scene.
This is Romeo and Juliet only in as much that they are 2 warring families. And they come together, but it's not even necessarily romantic, other than Isaiah
really
Washington's Mac saying Romeo's gotta die, and it's just like,
right?
all right.
I mean, I have to ask. I mean, the thought has occurred to me if the film would have been better if they just left out the whole Romeo and Juliet concept completely and made it a pure action film. And I'm not sure. I mean, I know they probably got a few more ticket sales in the box office because of the name, but I just wonder how much that might have hurt them with the critics.
Maybe because when she says, "Are you out of your mind?" when he shows up at her dad's house,
Yes.
and then hiding him, and her dad coming in and out, a la Nurse, for the balcony scene, that worked really well, and that was very much, why are you here? The orchard walls are high and hard to climb. My father's men will kill you. And that all worked so very well. But I don't think you would have been able to have the warring families with the trying to buy up all the property so we can get an NFL team subplot with Roth, the bad white guy who's in and out, if you were sticking to a pure Romeo and Juliet plot.
Right. But at the same time, maybe not playing it up with the naming and everything.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, there's so many movies that aren't called, Romeo, or aren't called. I mean, they just have their own name, and you never know that it's loosely based on this Shakespeare play unless you research it, because they just, I mean, it's good on its own.
Yeah, you might just say, hey, this kind of feels like that. And if it weren't called Romeo Must Die, if it could have just been Revenge, I don't know.
Yeah.
Then those scenes all still would have worked.
Yeah.
And it was like, this kind of feels like the balcony scene on Romeo and Juliet. That's cute.
Yeah. I wonder if the critics might not have judged it so harshly, I guess is what I'm saying.
Maybe.
I mean, maybe it still would have had the same issues, but I don't know. I mean, it's just once you elevate yourself to Shakespeare by some comparison, you're automatically putting yourself at a disadvantage, and you have to deliver.
And naming it after such a well-known story, Romeo and Juliet, it's like, okay, in my head, the clock is ticking on the lifespan of these characters. When are they going to die? And then I'm thinking, well, it's a Jet Li movie. I don't think they're gonna. And I knew nothing about it other than the title. I remember seeing it when I was in school, and rather seeing the title of the movie when I was in school. I did not actually see it until we watched it for this program. And
oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so this was my very first time seeing it. Other than some weird, bad 90s clothes and interesting things being done in the fights, like the whoosh, which I did not care for.
Yeah.
And let's do X-ray vision on what's happening to people, which was inconsistently used. And I think that's probably also why it annoyed me so much. I rather liked it. I liked it a lot. And you could have taken some of this and applied it to Sherlock Gnomes.
Right.
Why didn't Sherlock Gnomes take a page from this?
Right? I mean, it came out afterwards. They could have.
They really could have.
Another thing about Romeo Must Die, I do want to throw out, though. I think I totally agree with what you said. I actually saw it when it came out in 2000, and I thought, it's a pretty good film. I mean, it's not phenomenal, but it has some good moments. It was very good for Jet Li's career.
Oh,
it was
absolutely.
He had the only American film he'd been in before that was, again, Joel Silver, Lethal Weapon 4. He played the villain, and he wasn't used to playing villains, and he was very popular in Asia for playing the good guy, but he agreed to do it to help him get a foot in the door in American cinema, and this was his vehicle for that, and it did get his name out there, so it was good for his career. And Aaliyah, it was great for her because, the soundtrack for this did phenomenally well, and a lot of her music is on there, so it was very good for her in that regard. So, but the director, I'm going to try to see if I can get the name right, Andrzej Bartkowiak.
I'll buy that for $1.
Sure. I mean, he had not directed really much of anything at that
point. He hadn't?
And No, and he has only directed a few movies. I mean, notably things like Doom from 2005 and Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li from 2009, and that kind of. I mean, not before that, he was known as a very, very, very good cinematographer. And you'll notice the visuals in this film are very good.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's
the car, the Mercedes and the two motorcycles chase scene, which then leads into the fight where he is using her as a weapon.
You know what?
That's my favorite sequence.
You know what movie he was the cinematographer of? Speed.
Ah.
I mean,
there we go.
But also movies like The Verdict, In Terms of Endearment, and Death Trap, The Morning After. I mean, some serious, not action films. But then you've also got like Species and The Devil's Advocate and U.S. Marshals.
Oh, Species is terrible.
The visuals are actually not bad though.
U.S. Marshals, fun movie.
Yeah, I mean, the cinematography on Species is actually very good for a sci-fi film, but you're right, the movie is not that good.
Oh my gosh, this all then reroutes back to Joel Silver because, all right, bear with me, and I don't know if Joel Silver was a producer on U.S. Marshals, but go with me on this. If your director was the cinematographer on U.S. Marshals, Cypher from The Matrix was in U.S. Marshals. This guy then, he is the bridge betwixt Joel Silver and the director, Cypher.
Probably, and later.
And then that leads to this movie directly.
He was the cinematographer on Lethal Weapon 4, which brought him into
Jet Li.
This was after that, but brought him in with Jet Li and Joel Silver.
And so he's just meeting everyone, picking up all the pieces.
So that it all comes together, but it's just I don't think the gist is he's not a great director from my take, but he's a great cinematographer. So you'll get great visuals. You won't necessarily get great scenes and the flow and everything. I think that was a bit of a weakness. It's not horrible, but it could have been better.
The editing, the movie could have been made better, shaving a little bit of time off. Just some bits of it just felt too long or not necessarily needed. I felt the writing in some of the scenes was very stilted, but I did very much appreciate that Han and his father spoke to each other in Chinese. I thought that was very good and lent it a little bit more authenticity than it otherwise might. And since English is not Jet Li's first language, and they might have done that as a courtesy to him of let's do these scenes with his father purely in Chinese.
That being said, I think when he did do English, he did a good job. I mean,
he very much did.
It was very, not much dialogue for him, but it was still, you can tell they took the time and made it work. I was impressed.
Yeah, it was really well done, and I don't know. Like I watched these movies back to back, like bang bang. Let's.
That would be a weird review.
And that is exactly what we're doing here. I watched these back to back in the opposite order from which we're kind of discussing them, but they are to an extent of a piece, not just because they are both vaguely loosely based on Romeo and Juliet, because they both have Romeo to an extent in their titles, but toxic relationships. No relationship in Romeo Must Die is a good relationship until you get Han and Trish together. And theirs seems to be one brought together by whimsy because she's first trying to escape Maurice, played by Anthony Anderson, and he's stealing a cab. And then later by shared grief. They've each lost somebody. Each of them, they're brothers, and they're trying to figure things out. Never once going to the police. It's like, come on, people, work with me here. You probably could cut an hour off this movie just by saying, "Hey, people are doing some stuff." Oh, all right, we're on it, and there you go. A problem solved. Maybe not. I don't know, but that's the only relationship that is not toxic. her relationship with both her brother and her father is not good.
No.
She very much yells at her brother, "Do not use my store as a place to do your illegal activities."
And he does it.
And exactly. She has had a very fraught relationship with her father, which is made okay at the end.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible.
Yeah, but at the same point, when we get to the point where he gets shot by Mac, when Mac betrays him, I'm like, no, don't kill Delroy Lindo. You have to understand, everyone, in the 90s, Delroy Lindo was a big deal. He was a big deal, everyone. He was one of those figures that you're like, he's just cool. And also, he could be my dad. Like, he's everyone's dad in so many things. And then it was like, no, don't kill 90s dad. So that was my thinking there. But you have Isaiah Washington just doing so remarkable as Mac. He goes on to TV show Doctor's Grey's Anatomy. You have DB Woodhouse. I'm sorry, DB Woodside. Just be incredibly underused, nearly criminally underused in this. And his career should be bigger. Hollywood, get on that, make his career bigger. And you have just a lot of really good secondary tier actors doing yeoman's work in this. And again, just the remarkable, the fantastic, the brilliant, the effervescent Anthony Anderson. I just adore him. He makes everything better. He elevated the first Transformers movie, if you remember.
Yes.
He made that movie watchable, along with John Turturro. Everything else was crap in that movie. Anthony Anderson and John Turturro put them in everything. John Turturro, remarkably, not in either of these movies. Like, why? Do you want it to fail? That's why. That's why Sherlock Gnomes failed. It had neither Anthony Anderson nor John Turturro. And that is the point of this. You have to put them in everything in order for your movie to do well. If you want to get a good review on this show, you put in Anthony Anderson and John Turturro.
Right? Well, I think we're kind of a similar mind on these films right now. It seems like I think so. I mean, the gist for me is that Romeo Must Die. It's a pretty good action film.
Yeah.
It has some good moments. It has some not so great moments. It's a fun watch. It's something a little different for the action movie genre. So I appreciate that. I appreciate the difference. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's something, if you've got the time and you're just in the mood for that type of film, you could do a lot worse. So it's worth seeing.
Yeah. I mean, it also has some moments you're like, what? Such as the needlessly lascivious moment at the top when Poe, Han's brother, is about to get into the fight at the club. Mm-hmm. The two women dancing, one of whom, the future Boomer from Battlestar Galactica, Grace Park. So that was not needed not needed for the film in any way, shape, or form. And the dancing with the kids in her, I'm not quite sure what kind of a store it was. Was it records? Was it apparel? Was it a coffee house? I
thought it was apparel/coffee house, but I don't know.
I feel that if you're going to have a successful business, you need to focus in on one business model. And, I mean, she seemed to be doing okay. She had a bunch of people working there. But still, I'm not sure what her model is. Just, we have coffee and clothes and a DJ. And
not sure it really mattered because, honestly, that was so...
Yeah, it's in two scenes.
The only reason it was there was to say that she she picked some place that was away from the family business because she didn't approve of it. And that was it. It was, but you're right. They could have done a better job defining that, and they really didn't. It was a missed opportunity.
Speaking of weird opportunities, missed or otherwise, I have no idea. When he was in the prison in Hong Kong. And you find out not until an hour later that he was in prison to help his father and brother escape. Being brought down by Hong Kong police. And he himself was
they also say that he himself was a policeman.
Yeah, he was himself was a police officer at one point. When he is making his escape and the guard stops him to talk about gambling. I once had a tip at the racetrack too. And then, hey, could you place a bet for me? So beautifully random. Just so weird. But
there were a lot of bits like that where it was kind of like you should have either cut this or gone a little further with it.
Yeah,
because it wasn't enough, and I mean it wasn't unamusing.
No, it was quite amusing, but it lent nothing to the story.
No, it could have been more. I mean, you could have made it a huge thing, like an ongoing inside joke, or you could have done. It could have been insight into him or his past or whatever. I mean, you never know. It just, it was weird. It was. There were a lot of moments like that.
I feel that he should have met his father far earlier in the film, and then even treat his escape from prison as a flashback. Like if you were doing this film now, I think that's very much how it would be done.
Probably. I think the reason they put it in there was they were trying to get as much action at the beginning as they could.
Okay.
That's not uncommon for 80s and 90s action films. They have a huge action intro and then they have a secondary action bit afterwards.
Okay.
And I think they were being a little formulaic there, unfortunately.
I mean, all of the fights were really cool. I liked all the fights. I thought they were all fun. Him having no desire to, as he put it, hit a girl when they were fighting the one motorcyclist. A very fun scene until she dies.
Yeah.
But
admittedly, she just killed a bunch of people, but still.
She did. So should we feel bad about her?
I don't know.
Probably not. But she also takes the time to remove her leather jacket in order to fight better. I don't know.
Well, leather is just not a good protection against violence. I mean, they've proven that in lots of military engagements over the last 1,000. Oh wait.
Yeah, it's like in D&D, maybe we should stop using leather armor, or we should take it off before running headlong into battle.
Right.
Roll your initiative.
That's gonna be my new thing for a gaming character. It's going to be like, we're going into battle. I'm taking off my armor. Yes.
No, let me take off my really nice and possibly protective leather jacket.
Right?
No, it's like, this is good if I get into a motorcycle accident. But if I get into a violent altercation with Han over here, because we're going to be doing some karate, I got to take this off.
You see,
this is Versace. This is a Versace motorcycle jacket. Do you understand?
I blame Bruce Lee because he made that so famous by, I'm going to fight. Okay. And he takes off and shows off the guns and the arms and really, it's an intimidation move. And I think he's responsible for that. So I'm going to give her a pass on that. But you're right. It is pretty silly.
Yeah, no,
the way they did it there.
Like, this is... It's a weird scene. I enjoy the fight because he literally uses her to punch, to kick.
It got Aaliyah into the fight. It got Trish into that, and that was because it would have come across, if he hadn't done that, the movie would have come across as more of a he's the knight coming in to save the damsel kind of thing, which gets old and tired quick. So bringing her into that and her kind of in effect helping him and saving him,
she is a bludgeoning weapon.
Problems. Yeah, I mean it really helped make that there on equal terms dynamic, which honestly is not that common 20 years ago.
No,
so I appreciate
it's not that common now. And that's
You're right. It's not common enough, but it's. But yeah, I thought that was a good step. I mean, they could have done a lot more with that, sure, but doing anything was great.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good observation.
So many
I
weird
guess
moments in this movie.
any other thing to bring up, or are we about ready for our closing here?
I think I'm good. I think I'm good. We're 45 minutes or so in. So yeah.
Well, it's a double feature. So
It's a double
pass
feature.
on that,
I hope you brought popcorn, internet.
Right. Because now for those of you that don't know, a double feature historically, they used to have two movies that you could watch. They'd have an A picture and a B picture, and that's how they did it. It was very common. I mean, I wasn't around when I was a kid, but parents, grandparents, they knew about it.
They are around now. If you go to the drive-in, you are always paying for two films. Always.
Right. Oh, right.
Every time you go to the drive-in.
If you do a drive-through, they still have that. Now, not to say I've never done it, because I have gone to the movies and watched a movie, and then went and watched a different movie right afterwards, because it's why not? It's awesome
called theater hopping. That's called theater hopping.
And for the record,
it's also
I actually
stealing.
paid for the second film. Thank you very much.
Oh well, then never mind.
I went outside, bought another ticket, and went in. Yes. And the first time I did that was with my mom and my sister, and it was to see the Last Starfighter and Daryl back to back. I'm totally dating myself.
That's a double feature.
I was a kid. I was really young, but that was the first time, and I remember it well. It was great. The Last Starfighter and Daryl. Yes.
That is a double feature and a half.
Wasn't it?
Right there. I did the theater hopping thing once, but we also paid for it. It was Christmas Day when the Two Towers came out for the Lord of the Rings saga.
Yes.
And it was snowing, and we were snowed in at the movie theater.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So, but here's the backstory. Our family's party was cancelled because of the snow, and my dad says, "Let's go to the movies." I'm guessing higher level logic doesn't work, or snow can't hurt you if you're going to the movies. Either way. So we go to the movies to go see the Two Towers, and the theater manager comes in at the intermission point, real quick, just says, "Hi, everyone," because also it was the only film being shown, because that's just where everyone in the movie theater was.
Right.
It was a multiplex, though. He says, "Hey, we are snowed in. We're not getting plowed out for about 4 hours. There's another hour and a half or whatever of this movie. If you all like, pay this much for unlimited food and drink, and to go see whatever else you want." So we saw 2 other movies.
Well done.
Had lunch and dinner, and I was hopped up on cherry Coke and coffee. And so it was a really good time. I don't remember what either of the 2 other films were. I just remember we had a delightful time. And just
give the manager credit. That was a good way to handle that situation.
Thank you, Mike Hess Sr. Back in, what was that, 2002? Thank you, Mike Hess Sr. for a delightful Christmas day at the movies. Yeah, good man.
Well done.
I only know that it's Mike Hess Sr. because it was my friend from high school's dad. Yeah.
Excellent.
So, so that's a random story for you that had
nothing to do, but that's fine. It's just to go to give you examples of double features. I mean, you can do it. If you've never done it, I recommend it. If you can, some people can't sit for that long and watch movies, but if you can, it can be a nice treat. So, in
the best of all worlds, they go together. Sometimes they have nothing to do with each other at all.
And sometimes that's great to have. You get that whole sine curve of emotions where you get the action movie and the fantasy, or I mean, it can be okay.
I highly recommend combining Twister with The Wizard of Oz.
It does give a new feeling to which, but you'd probably want to watch. Would you watch Twister first?
I watched Twister first.
I agree. I think it's a good call.
Yeah, you watch Twister first, and then you watch Wizard of Oz. Unless it's at a drive-in, then you do Wizard of Oz first, because that's the movie that's more appropriate for little kids. That's one they actually care about. Well, you do the family-friendly one first.
Naturally. Well, I guess I'm going to ask you right out. I mean, what review do you give Sherlock Gnomes here?
Well, all right. For a moment, I thought you were going to ask what review do I give Twister, and I'm going to have to say, 25 years later, 2 thumbs very up. But Sherlock Gnomes. I'm just gonna have to give it a Reichenbach fall because it Reichenbach fell down. It's
Okay.
There was potential, but it did not live up to it.
Mm.
There is a better movie there somewhere. I don't think you can edit it and make a better movie. I think you take some of the elements and go back.
Rewrite.
Yeah, page one rewrite. But I think there is something there. But also, is there going to be a third one? It made money. You said it made what, about twice its budget?
Yeah.
So maybe there will be a third one in the same universe. I think that would be fine, but you have to take Romeo and Juliet out of it. They can't be your principal focus. And unless you are giving them a truly great, unique adventure of their own to go off and do.
Yes.
And then it just brings in the titular main characters of the next thing, be it Sherlock or whomever, as a side character for the grab along. But I give it a Reichenbach fall down. What about you?
Okay. I'm gonna have to give it an out of tune violin.
Oh.
Yeah. There are a few. I mean, I think it fell into a lot of the pitfalls that sequels tend to fall into, and in fact, I don't think they fell. I think it just jumped into the pit of what that a lot of sequels have. I mean, these were obvious mistakes that just they seem to embrace for some reason. I don't understand it. They did a few things right, sure, and there are a few cute moments. And if you like the first
animated brain sequences.
Hey, if you like the first one a lot, I mean, I guess go ahead and watch this one because it has a few of the same characters, and you're not gonna lose your lunch. It's okay, but at the same time, I always take the Highlander view of movies like this because I've seen every single Highlander movie, including the TV versions, except I have never seen Highlander 2. I have the movie, and I have it labeled on my media hard drive that Highlander 2, do not watch even if drunk. That's how I've titled it. Because I've heard so many bad things about it. It ruins the whole franchise. And that's what I heard from people, and I wasn't willing to take that risk.
It's weird.
It is from what I've heard.
It's a weird movie.
I mean, I know the plot. I know everything that happens. I just have refused to see it. So if you think it might detract from your love of Romeo and Juliet, which both you and I love that film,
this doesn't detract from my love of that.
I don't think it does. It doesn't for me either.
No,
but if you're afraid it might, it's not necessarily worth the risk. I mean, I wouldn't. It's not worth it to really watch. But if you just want to have something to pass the time, okay. But yeah, it's an attitude violin for me. I could have lived without seeing it.
And what do you give? What do you give the Anthony Anderson starring vehicle of Romeo Must Die?
I'm gonna give it a friendly handhold.
A friendly handhold.
Because at the end, they don't kiss.
No, they don't.
They don't. They filmed it apparently, and it just didn't seem to work with test audiences.
No, it would not have.
Jet Li said that it didn't work because he had just witnessed the suicide of his father. Spoiler alert.
Exactly. But, and there's also no romance prior.
And it just didn't flow right, and I get it. I mean, it's been said that it was an interracial thing. I mean, maybe for some people, but I don't really think that was the thing. It was just it just didn't flow with the movie. So at the end, all they do is they just say some words together and go off holding hands. And I thought that was a great way to end it. But was it a full out romance? Was it passionate? No. Yeah. So I'm just gonna say, give it a kind of a lukewarm. It was a good walking off holding hands thing. Could have been better. Could have been worse. It's not a bad action film. So I'd say worth seeing. Go ahead. What about you?
I give it the full Delroy Lindo. I do.
I
give it a full Delroy Lindo because I agree that the hand holding at the end was the right move because it's friendly. Right. You can intimate romance from that, or just hey, we're friends. Let's go. We've both had a really bad week. Let's go.
That kind of worked.
Because they don't set up romance with them really at all. You can argue that there's flirty moments.
Yes,
but that's all they are.
Yeah.
And he did just see the death of his father, and You don't need that. You don't need to make out right after that. No, that's bad thing. Yeah, your dad is kind of a supervillain, and you know what? Know your moment. Maybe they get together, maybe they don't. I'm okay with it either way. But this movie was fun. It was enjoyable. Odd choices could be tightened up a little bit, but I give it the full Delroy Lindo, and that possibly should be my ranking system for everything because he has just such a fun name to say.
Okay, the full Delroy Lindo, the reach around Delroy Lindo, the
Oh my God! No! Stay away from that. On that, holy crap! I guess that's the end of season 2. Will we get a season 3 after that? Oh my God!
I was sorry, bad joke, but no, I just no. This is the end of season 2, so we're going to take a break for a little while. But if you haven't, if you after this show, if you haven't seen our Romeo and Juliet review, go back and check that out.
It's adorable.
It is definitely an adorable film, and it definitely a good film to watch. So I highly recommend that, especially if you're considering watching Sherlock Gnomes. No, just watch Romeo and Juliet.
You want to really combine these things? Go watch the 2010 maybe Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes with Jude Law. It's a fun movie. 2009. There we go. Yes. It's a fun movie. It's one of my favorites. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, I actually didn't love it as much as you did as far as the Sherlock Holmes thing, but it's still a fun movie. So definitely a fun watch. So yeah, check it out.
Oh. Well, friends, that about does it for us. Thanks for watching another season of Shakespeare Reviews. If you'd like to support the show, you can. 1, 5, 10 for a 50. Andrew and I will come and reenact every single fight scene from Romeo and Juliet Sherlock Gnomes in your front garden because we are garden gnomes ourselves. I mean, little known fact. But go be a Patreon of the arts at patreon.com/lifesaffair. And then also do us a favor and follow us on all the social medias, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Go follow us everywhere. You can follow me, your friendly neighborhood Shakespeare, facebook.com/Shakespeare Approves, Instagram, Shakespeare.approves, TikTok, same thing, Shakespeare.approves, Twitter at Shakes Approves, and on YouTube, Shakespeare Approves. And if you want to throw me anything, buy me a cup of coffee, you can go to coffee.com/Shakespeare. Andrew, where can the people find you?
Well, you can always find me at facebook.com/The Irish Bard on Facebook, and support me on Patreon at patreon.com/Irish Bard. And you can hear and buy some of my music at theirishbard.bandcamp.com.
Well, friends, until next season, it could be next week, depending on when you're watching this, or even later today. Stay classy and stay magical. And always remember, Anthony Anderson makes every movie an instant masterpiece. Bye-bye.
And remember, orchids are beautiful flowers, really hard to grow. Stick with daisies, much easier.
Anthony Anderson will grow you the orchids.
Oh, well, he can do anything.
We can't end the show!